Today we're making fried quail. I'm going to start with half a cup of flour, half a cup of cornstarch, about a teaspoon and a half of salt, quarter teaspoon each of white pepper, black pepper, and about an eighth of a teaspoon of cayenne pepper, about a teaspoon of powdered garlic, same amount of, normally I would use powdered onion, but I don't have any powdered onion, so I really minced some onion fine. Don't be afraid to substitute if you're out of a specific ingredient. And then over here, about a heaping teaspoon, so about 3/4 of a teaspoon of baking powder. Also a cup of ice cold water. The temperature on the water is important. And the most important starring ingredient is the quail quarters. These are in a brine right now, and they have been brining for about 3 hours. And the brine consists of water, salt, pepper, garlic, and a bay leaf. I'm afraid I didn't measure anything out, but that's probably about 4 cups of water, about a quarter cup of salt, pepper to taste. I probably put in about 5 cloves of garlic and 1 good-sized bay leaf. So this is going to be the brine. We're going to first go ahead over here. We're going to mix together all of the dry ingredients. And then once the dry ingredients are put together, we're going to mix it with the cold water. Like I said, it's important that it's cold. And then you're not going to want to mix it too thoroughly because you want it to be lumpy. You want the batter to be lumpy. It's a lot like tempura batter, except a lot more flavorful. I am starting to mix the ingredients together, the dry ingredients, starting with the flour, cornstarch, salt, our 3 different kinds of peppers, garlic powder, and baking powder. I'm not putting the onions in right now because the onions are not dry, and I want to make sure that all the dry ingredients mix together nicely. While I'm mixing these things together, I have the oil heating. I've got my fryer over here. Now I'm going to go ahead and I want to get it up to about 350 degrees Fahrenheit, which on this thermometer is about 175 degrees, or right in the red, because this thermometer is in Celsius. This is a Japanese deep fryer. Okay. Next I've added my onion to the cold water. You might notice one of my cheats on keeping it cold here. I've got that little ice cube in there. But the temperature is important because if you don't keep the temperature right, it's not going to fry up correctly. So now comes the fun part. I'm going to go ahead and mix the water in here. I'm not going to put it all in here quite yet because I want the batter to be thick. We want to make it nice, thick coating on the quail quarters. And again, don't want to mix it too thoroughly because we want it kind of lumpy. That'll give it that nice fried chicken lumpiness that we want. So this is looking about right, though I do want to make sure to get all the onion in there, so I'm going to go ahead and scoop that out of the measuring cup and make sure to add it to the batter. I did not use quite all of the water, but I did get the onion mixed in there. As you can see when I bring this up, there are lumps in the batter. This is good. Now I'm just going to wait for the temperature to get up here. It is increasing. Once it hits the 175 Celsius, or about 350 Fahrenheit, I'm going to go ahead and start dipping the quail quarters into the batter and frying them up. Before I do dip the quail quarters into the batter, I'm going to be taking them out of here and I'm going to pat them dry. The oil is still heating. I'm going to go ahead and start putting the quail pieces into the batter here. I'm doing 6 quail. I may end up splitting this into 2 batches to fry to keep the temperatures a little more even. And make sure everything is all nicely coated. See how it's nice and thick, so it's clinging to the quail nicely there, because you want it a thick coating on there so that when it fries up it will be nice and crispy and actually be like kind of like fried chicken but with quail. So while I am impatiently waiting for the oil to heat up, I'm going to go ahead and show you that I put in probably about 1.5 inches or so of oil in the pan. There's no reason to get it too deep because all that's going to do is waste oil. If it's not completely submerged, that's fine. You can always turn it over while you're cooking it. So we're going to wait a little bit longer for this to continue to heat up. As the oil was beginning to smoke, I realized that the problem is the reason the oil wasn't showing the proper heat because the end of the sensor isn't entirely in the oil. So that was a bit of a problem. So I threw a little bit of batter in there and it's crisped up nicely. So now it is time to start adding the quail. Let's go ahead and start putting this on in here. Oh yes, that is kind of what you're looking for. Nice design about this pan is that it's got that lip on the edge so you don't get a lot of splatter. It's got the little nice rack up there so you can rest the quail or whatever you're frying on there and the oil will drain back into the pan. So my oil may actually be a little too hot on this first batch. You don't want to leave the quail in here for too long. The pieces are pretty small, so they'll probably only take about 6 or 7 minutes to cook all the way through. So I'm going to go ahead and set my timer for 6 minutes. I'm going to stop here because I don't want to overcrowd the pan. And then in 6 minutes we're going to go ahead and revisit this. So the temperature on that first batch was in fact too high, but I've got it down to the right temperature now. You can see here. The first batch still didn't turn out too badly though. I'm going to go ahead and finish doing this next bit. I'm all done. I think the batter on those looks nice and crisp, quite pretty. So I'm going to finish up cooking these guys and then we'll take a picture of all the results. The third and final bit of quail is frying up now. The second batch still turned a nice golden brown and I cooked it for longer, so while there's a small chance that this batch isn't cooked through, this batch definitely is. And here we have one lovely big bowl of fried quail. I hope you enjoyed my cooking. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. There is an entire playlist of cooking videos, so hopefully you will enjoy and try some of the other recipes as well. Thank you.